I'm Dr. Rachel Headley. I'm the CEO of Rose Group International. I'm really excited to be here as part of Elevate's series of trainings. I guess there's been a few already, so I'm really excited to be here. One of the things I thought I would do is give just a tiny bit of background about Rose Group and who we are. We actually are headquartered in Spearfish. We work across the US and Canada, and we are a business consultancy that really focuses on evaluating individuals and companies' chaos tolerance. So of course, right now it's kind of as chaotic as it is going to get, right? So we wanted to share some of kind of how do we effectively support our people for remote work, and that's really based on our research and experience with companies in less completely chaotic situations, but things like mergers and acquisitions, or what's some other things? Mergers and acquisitions, leadership changes, big technology upgrades, regulatory changes, those sorts of things. So this is a big one. But the good news is that chaos and how people work through chaos and respond to it is actually quite predictable, even really big chaos like we have right now. So you're going to have some people really leaning into the chaos and saying, ooh, maybe there's new opportunity here. Or you're going to have people leaning as far away from chaos as possible and saying, I saw, some fun memes on Facebook about how they're barely, getting out of their pajamas. And so they're not going to be doing any sort of opportunity seeking right now. So we're seeing this, what we study and our sort of how we support people in real time. And Facebook is a perfect place to be, to see the range of reactions, right? So today I wanted to talk a little bit about how to think about supporting your people. I just got off the phone yesterday with a firm who is in Manhattan, and they've been struggling with motivation because they have been away from the office for longer than most of us have been. So this particular woman I was talking to, she was a C-suite executive, chief people officer, and she lives in the New Rochelle area, which has been locked down since the 3rd of March. So she is on 4 weeks of no leaving her house. And she's a very high achiever, incredible professional, and she's, for the first time in her life, struggling with motivation. And so how can you help even the people that have in the past, like, sort of charged through the most difficult times? How do you support them? Because they're not really reacting in the same way to this particular event and all of this social isolation as they have before. And in our case, Rapid City shut down this week. Spearfish is shutting down as of 5 o'clock. And so a lot of us are just getting into the social distancing model. And so there's a lot of unknowns. And so what I'd like to do today is just share some of the knowns and some of the things that you can be thinking about. I guess how we're gonna run the question and answer. So I'm not really great at doing chats on the fly, but I will do my best to keep an eye out for it. But my intention today is to I have a slide deck prepared that's pretty digestible. It's very high level, but it gives you some real useful tools and insights to actually either help yourself, help those who you might be leading, or help other people, perhaps a partner or teammates, actually think about what's going on right now and how they're reacting and how you can support them. And so I'm going to talk about that for about a half hour, and then I'll take a look at the questions, see if there's any questions going on. So feel free to pop in a question once it comes to you in the chat window, and then I'll check back in about a half hour. So thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to share some of this with you, and I think you're gonna really love it. So, all right, I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, I'm also supposed to tell you, Rachel told me to tell you that you can catch the replays, or if you think it's really something that if you think what I have to say today or some of the ideas would really resonate with colleagues or family or whoever, you can check out the replay on the YouTube channel and probably on the Facebook page too. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to Rachel Day or any of the Elevate folks, I would imagine, for clarification on that. So let me just share my screen. All right, and then I'm going to actually cheat a little bit. I'm going to move this over to my other window so I don't have to, you don't have to look at the side of my face because that would be weird. All right, we have enough weirdness in our life right now. Okay, so how to effectively support your team in remote work. So that's really the goal today. And we're going to talk really specifically about who you might be, who your people might be, and what you can do in response to that. All right, let me see if I can, there we go. So we got kind of snuck up on, right? So COVID is off to the left here. Chaos, right, is sneaking up on us. And everyone else was like, well, this seems like a normal, 2020 is going to be a great year. Remember when we started 2020, how great it was going to be. And so we're sort of, we're kind of doing our thing, and all of a sudden COVID sneaks up on us and, kind of sneaks up on us. And we're all like, oh God, now what are we going to do? And how do we react and respond well and actually figure out what to do? So even though COVID is a massive upheaval to our life and uncertainty and chaotic and dramatic, again, there is very predictable ways that we can, and practical ways that we can actually address some of the anxiety, uncertainty, and just instability that we're feeling. So I don't know if you guys know the Heart and Brain cartoon series, but definitely you should check it out if you don't know it, because it is funny as heck. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. Okay. So, so what it does is the heart is sort of that free-spirited, fun-loving part of us, and the brain is like the sort of get things done side of us. And this is really a tension that we see when we study chaos tolerance generally, is that we see this tension within ourselves and between people. And some people just are more on the one end and more on the chaos tolerant end and more on the order tolerant end. That doesn't mean anyone's better or worse. It means that we have different gifts. We support and thrive differently. We have different roles, perhaps. We succeed in different ways. And so it's important. So here our brain is saying, Heart, the key to success is having a plan. And of course, lightning strikes, in our case, COVID strikes. And now they're like, well, I don't think life cares about your plan. But what about the bullet points? Yeah, we all know, we know people. I'm not a bullet point. I'm a bullet point person in the sense that it's faster than writing. So we all feel this tension, right? And I know that we also feel this tension of the fear of COVID and the logic of what's actually happening in the statistics. And some of us dive really deep into the statistics, and some of us just are like, well, I'm just going to stay home. And so we see this tension all around this. Do we lean into the chaos, lean away? How do we react? And so the challenge is, oh, excuse me, I've been on a lot of Zoom calls today, so I'm just going to take a sip of water. The challenge today is that it's important to understand yourself and how you're reacting and how kind of you're thinking about things or not. And then also this creates a lot of tension between teams. It creates a huge amount of misunderstandings. And we're going to get into that a little more here next. So when we evaluate chaos tolerance, what we look at, so on this graph, we've kept it pretty simple. So it's very clear. So at the top is chaos, right? So people like me, I'm very chaos tolerant, which means I'm on Elevate Rapid City with a bunch of people I don't know. I can't even see who you are. And I really love it when some random stranger pokes their head into my office and wants to talk. And I don't mind if it messes up my whole day. And I like that kind of, and I love new ideas and someone thinking, well, that's kind of like this. And I'm like, I never thought of that before. So I like that kind of crazy, I'm the squirrel person, right? The people that are like those squirreling after some other new idea. I'm the squirrel. We are the squirrels at the top of the chaos chart. At the bottom is order, and order people are the folks that actually like, no, actually you said we were supposed to do that last week and we didn't do it. So now we're supposed to do it this week and we're not doing it. So the order people are the people that really are focused on getting things done. They tend to be specialists because they can focus on one thing for long enough to win a Nobel Prize or be the best welder in Western South Dakota or the best whatever. So best quilter. So these are folks that can really focus and get really, really good at something. I will never have the depth of experience and knowledge that some people will have because I'm too busy chasing the next thing around. Again, neither is better. It's just different. And we bring differences to the table. So the most important thing to realize is that a chaos person like me really needs order people in our life to get things done, and because they help me stay focused and actually follow through on things. Order people need chaos people because, especially in business, because chaos people are always looking to push ahead and expand the market, and maybe we need to try this, or there seems to be a need for a product over here that we could do. And so it's important to have both of us involved in everything. But of course, the very nature of that makes us drive each other crazy, right? So, because I'm a just figure it out as I go kind of girl, and then order tolerant people are, hey, I need a plan. Like I need to actually understand what you want me to do. I'm not a figure it out person. I'm a plan person. So that's kind of the extremes. Of course, there's a huge gradation between these two, that some people are good at both. Some people are really good at one or the other. The other axis is, in this environment, especially in the COVID remote work environment right now, is the team to self. So we have people that are very team oriented, who do not want to be alone, do not want to isolate, do not want to be alone at home, even with or without other humans. And then you have on the other end, you have the self-driven people, and those folks are okay working alone. They're okay not being checked in with that often. They like being a part of a team, but they don't need it like the team people need it. So what we see is, as we do remote work, depending on kind of where you fall on this in this space, will really depend on how you're reacting to what's going on right now. So if you want to figure out where you might be on this thing, some of you may have already taken our assessment through SDCEO events or something like that. If you haven't, then you can go to my website, our website, rosegroupintl.com, or just Google me and Rose Group and you'll find it. And there's right at the top underneath, there's a little video, and underneath that video, there's a take the culture type assessment. Click on that link and you can get your results in just a few minutes. It's like a 3-minute assessment. So, okay, so I want to walk you through a little bit of the challenges that we see depending on where you fall on this graph, specific to what's going on right now, because we work with companies all over the US and Canada on team dynamics challenges, leadership development, team development, executive coaching, all of that stuff that is sort of traditional business consultancy, especially around leadership and team. But right now we are laser focused on remote work and how to support your people. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So this is a scatter plot of people. So when you take the assessment online, you will just get one of the big four: fixer, stabilizer, independent, or organizer. When we work with your organization as a client, we'll give you a scatter plot. So that's this, and then it gives you the quantified information about where your people live on this scatter plot, instead of just the 1-4 buckets. Okay. So if we look at this group, and I know this group well, I work with this company all the time and have for years. And so what we're looking at here, and we are not working with them on their remote work policy, but I'm going to use them as a tool here to demonstrate what we're seeing for some of our clients. So Kara, if you look at Kara, she's really down into the organizer group. And that means she's self-driven and order tolerant. So she's okay. If we think about isolating and working from home, that social distancing, she's actually pretty happy about being on her own, because frankly, the thing that drives Kara the craziest is if you go peek your head in her office and interrupt her. That drives her nuts. So she's happy without interruptions. She can get more work done if she has a more consistent day. However, she's order tolerant. And so what's happening for Kara is that if her boss isn't specific about the things that need to be done, then she feels very anxious and isn't very effective as an employee. And, or let's say maybe this is the kind of woman who, let's say she has kids at home, and let's say she's got a 6th grader and a sophomore, and she's got to now plan how to figure out how to work and have these kids at home. Well, she's the first one that will sit down and write a schedule for everybody and exactly what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, and what topic it is, and when they can bother her, right? So she's going to be one of those moms with a very specific schedule so she can get her work done and know what the kids are doing. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what people need here in a minute, but that's just kind of some context. On the other side of the line to the bottom left, the lower left, is our stabilizers. Now those folks need stable humans and human fabric around them, so a stable team, and they love a stable, predictable workday. So they're order tolerant too. So they like team and they love order. So what this looks like for stabilizers is they will react in a way that they'll actually seem like they're managing pretty well right now. Because what they're really doing is they figure that this is just a temporary situation and things are going to snap back to what they were before, and then it'll be fine. So, or if they've been laid off because they're, let's say a server at a restaurant, well, they figure, well, I can make it through a couple weeks, then everything will be fine, and I'll just go get a job or they'll get rehired, or I'll get a job at a different restaurant. So they seem to be doing okay right now. That is not going to last, and I will talk about that a little bit more in a second. The upper left corner are fixers. That's what I am. I'm a fixer, but I'm way high above Greg and a little to the right. I'm like right on the line, but higher up. And so I love to fix problems. It's one of the reasons I'm excited to be here talking to you. It's one of the reasons that I love my job, that I love the company. I love what we get to do and help people. It's just, it is emotionally and intellectually thrilling to get to do what I do. And because for me, it's because I'm a fixer. And so I love going into a company, understanding what's going on and helping them navigate the solution. So what happens with fixers when we isolate and we're remote working is that chaos is okay for us. We kind of we'll just kind of figure it out as we go. But we need the people. If we don't have problems to fix, it sort of breaks us. And of course, a lot of the problems right now are not fixable. Like like if I'm running a restaurant, I can't have patrons. And so I can't help my staff get tips or anything because I can't fix that. And so what happens with a lot of fixers, especially when they're isolated away from people, is that they don't have problems to solve and they don't have people to support. And that can be crippling and really stressful. On the upper right-hand side, you'll see that this company doesn't have any independence. And that's really because in this case, the CEO of this company is really pretty chaotic, and he has a very specific way that he likes to do chaotic things. And independence would just kind of throw a bomb in the middle of things, because independents are kind of the true disruptors. They want to change things up. They want to try things new things, but they're really self-driven. So they don't do it to make the world a better place. They do it because we haven't done that before and it might be cool. And they like freedom, and they create new things and it doesn't really matter if anyone else thinks it's a good idea, they do it anyway. So that's kind of the 4 types. And in this case, in this company, the people on the bottom, this is a PR firm that does like event planning and that kind of stuff. and social media and book launches and all the stuff that you can think of with PR. And so the people on the bottom of this graph, both organizers and stabilizers, tend to be people that write copy and plan the events and organize all the chaos. And so these are the folks that actually make the events and things as great as they are, because they're detail, or they write up the run of show and all that stuff. The chaos people on the top half of this graph, those folks are the ones that are client facing. So they're talking to clients and they're chatting up and they're saying, hey, client number 5, how's your day going? What's not working? How can I help? They're like all running around, always looking for something new. So that's kind of the split between the top half and the bottom half. On the left and the right, the people on the left tend to be team driven. They like helping people. People on the right tend to be the, hey, we're gonna get this thing planned and I can do that by myself, and then I'll hand off the plan to the people and they can go figure out how to do it. So that's kind of how the system works as a whole. Some of you may be asking or maybe thinking of questions related to things like other assessments like Myers-Briggs or strengths finders. And if you have any questions like that, I'm happy to answer those in a little bit. All right, this is a group, very different group, right? You can immediately see that this is a very different kinds of group than the one I just showed you. And that's the important thing about kind of understanding your people. So in this case, this is a health insurance firm who specializes in personal one-on-one client care. So they pride themselves that a human being answers the phone every time it rings and that kind of stuff. But as you know, a lot of healthcare right now, or now as compared to 10 or 15 years ago, there's a lot of data entry required, a lot of tracking, a lot of private information that needs to be updated in the databases and all that stuff that's going on. So this company used to be mostly the independent, so the upper right-hand corner, mostly salespeople. You know, these guys work on commission. They have to be okay with chaos. They have to be self-driven. If they're working by themselves for 3 weeks and they're just working with clients, that's okay with them. But then as the industry pushed into this more data entry, tracking, updating people, providing proof of insurance, that kind of stuff, you need people that are actually entering a lot of data. And so, and organizing everything. And as this company has grown, they grew 200% in the last 3 years, which is just crazy. And so as they've gotten bigger, they've segregated their processes. So now we have a group of people that are all about making sure that the routine things and the change requests from the clients and all that stuff is updated and constantly monitored. And then you have the sales team up in the upper right. And then you have the people on the left that are kind of right on the line between fixer and stabilizer. Those folks really are the team people who are kind of brought in and are sort of helping the order tolerant people like get their work done and do the finances, and they kind of keep track of everybody. So so what is happening now, I'll use them as a COVID example. So about 2 weeks ago, I was working with the CEO and he said to me, I've got a chaos person, an independent, we'll say Arthur. And Art is bugging me all the time about working from home, but he doesn't care, he's independent. So what's happening here is that the order tolerant people were anxious about working from home because they did not understand what the CEO wanted. He had said already, if you want to work from home, please do so. And you think, okay, well, awesome, check that box, next. Well, the problem though, but no one was doing it. So the problem is that the order tolerant people did not have enough information to actually make that decision for themselves, because they didn't know, like they pride themselves on answering the phone. Well, how do they answer the phone if they're not in their office? Well, you and I might say, well, you just forward it to your cell phone, right? But then it's their personal phone, and do you really want all your clients to have your personal phone number, and on and on and on? right? Do you have to change your welcome message, your voicemail message? And then are you incumbent on returning every call, even if it's past hours? All of those questions came up that didn't really have a good answer because the CEO is like, just figure it out. It'll work. But these are not figure it out people. These are, I want to understand how to be successful. Please help us figure out how to be successful. So that's really was the challenge. And so what he did is so then Arthur was expressing this concern to the CEO because the order tolerant people had already asked once or twice, and they don't want to like bug you. They don't want to like pick at you, nag you. And so they're just like, well, we just don't know. And he's not telling us, so we're just not going to work from home. And so what was going on is Arthur was actually being the voice for the order tolerant people, because chaos people, we don't care. We don't care if we bug you. We're going to ask again and again until we get the answer we need. And we just don't have the same, we don't mind conflict. Most order tolerant people just really don't dig it. They avoid conflict everywhere they can. And so they like people to just be happy, or to not cause more conflict. They just don't like it. So Arthur was actually supporting the order tolerant people by being the voice for them. And then finally the CEO said, okay, I finally hear you. Because of course he's got all kinds of worries, new worries going on about business continuity, and do we send people home? And this is a life or death, might be a life or death decision that I'm trying to make for my staff. And what do we do? And so he finally, I said, CEO guy, just sit down and for 10 minutes and write down in a bulleted list what you want them to do at home. How do you want them to be? What exactly are your expectations? He did it. He went over it at their next group meeting. Everyone's fine. That was on a Friday. The next Monday, everyone worked from home because they finally understood what they needed to know. So this is just one little example of how people, you can kind of think you've said what they need, or what you've said the things, but you haven't said it in a way that they need to hear, especially when the stressful environments that we're in right now, everyone's anxiety level is through the roof. Boom. Now, some of us are super chaos tolerant, and we're like, yeah, opportunity, or oh my gosh, I have to be pivoting my company or whatever. But at the end of the day, everyone is in a very high state of immediate defensiveness, anxiety. I've spoken with a few people who have had strange interactions with their people, like they're fighting or they're defensive, or somebody said something awkward and then someone else jumped in and it was very defensive. All of that is because of this elevated level of anxiety we're all having. And what I say, how I describe it is, it's like two wires rubbing together. And, normally we have lots of buffer, well, not always, but in good environments and good cultures, we have lots of buffer that, if you're a jerk to me, I can forgive you if you're not a jerk most of the time. But when we have this constant tension that's like rubbing two wires together, and even if you just do it with your fingers, you can feel that your fingers heat up, right? Because of the friction. And so eventually, as all of these things are worrying us, and we've been watching it on TV, and we watched it start in China, we thought, oh, it won't be here, it won't be that bad. And then we saw it come through Europe, and then all of a sudden it's in the US, and it's way in Seattle and whatever. And then all of a sudden it's in New York. And then all of a sudden we see it coming at us from both ways, right? It's pretty freaking terrifying. And so the more and more and more and more of that happens, we get elevated our anxiety. And pretty soon everything that happens is a spark. And everything that happens is a so you get backed into your corner, and you're like, don't want to come out. So you might not be feeling that right now, and that's really great if you aren't, but it might be coming for you. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. All right, where's my next? I gotta be Oh, there we go. So to summarize, to make this sort of simple, you should know that we have a whole book and a whole program and a bunch of ways that we engage people. So this is kind of just a tiny summary of all the things that we do. But so fixers, we need a mission. And if we are isolated without a mission, we sort of collapse. And independents, they need freedom. And frankly, just being told that they have to stay home drives them crazy, right? I mean, it drives all of us a little crazy, but independence really drives them crazy. Stabilizers need people. They love that and a stable group of an environment. And then organizers need a reason. They're much more logic driven because they're self-driven in order tolerant. They want to know what's going on. And not a why, like a passion thing. They want to know like tactically reasonable, what is going on? Like, what is the plan? Like they want to know just tactics. This can sometimes make them seem kind of like jerks. Like they're the kind of people that'll come in and say, you'll be like, listen, we need to find budget to hire Rachel because she's amazing and her stuff is amazing and we want her to come and work with us. And then they'll say, sorry, we don't have the budget. And you're like, can we find a budget? And like, nope, sorry, we don't even know what the budget's gonna be this year with all this COVID stuff. So nope. And so it feels very like they're not even willing to explore or anything. They can sometimes feel very abrupt or rude. And so because they kind of operate on that sort of logic side of the house. All right, so the other thing that's going on, and this kind of harkens back to the CEO story I told you, that was a Virginia company. So that Virginia company is that, they're like, things are going great. The CEO is like, well, I mean, this COVID thing's insane, but I think we've got it all handled. And then the brain's like, you should turn around. And they're like, nope, things are great this way. I don't want to see what's going on back there. So a lot of times we see, and really what happens with us is we see the world from our perspective. And so from our perspective, we might think, oh, well, we've got it figured out. We've got things handled, or not necessarily handled, but at least kind of structured in the way that works for us. But what we don't see is behind us how the rest of our team might need something totally different, or they might be losing their minds, and we're not really helping them navigate that. So this is one thing I just wanted to talk about very, very briefly is, so this is change. This is what people react. This is how people react in a change environment. So we have fixers that are wildly swinging. As soon as change happens, they have a tiny bit of decline about, oh my God, what's happening? And then they get into this, oh, well, we should try this or we should try that. And maybe this will work. Oh, that's not going to work. And oh my God, yay. And then, oh no, that's not going to happen. And we have these huge swings because we care about people around us. We want to help people. And so if we try one thing and it doesn't work for people, then we're like, oh no, that's not working. So we're usually seeing this big swing. But we're people driven. You'll see the independents have a similar curve, but they don't have as many lows because frankly, they love disruption and they're not as tied into they don't need buy-in from people. They are happy to just have the swings and just be creative. Organizers have a decline. So this downward slope is what we call the decline. And you can see it's very small for fixers and independents. It's a lot bigger for organizers. But again, once they sort of process through the reasoning and the logic and what the plan is, they can kind of come up and have their little bit of innovation and the creativity phase, and then they move on. Now, stabilizers, which is the most people, by the way, they have a much longer decline. And in fact, what we see is stabilizers can have a decline of almost 2 years sometimes if it's a really terrible change in their life. And so this is not unusual. That's why a lot of times when we go through big changes in our lives or big changes in a company, or we have big changes in our team, it seems like everyone's kind of like there's no unity for a year or more. And this is why, because you have chaos people who are all over the map, not necessarily sad, but constantly up and down and all over. And then you have your order tolerant people who are resisting change at different rates. And so their chaos, this wiggle, we call the innovation phase, because it really is exciting and innovating, and we sort of nerd out about it for those of us who love it. But you can see that we're all going through this at different paces, and so we're all sort of not together. And this is when we have unguided change. And so this could be years right, of craziness. And this is what we're trying to avoid. We don't want to send our people home and have years of craziness. We want to somehow calm this down a little bit and have everyone more on the same page and understand where our people are. So the good news is if you guide the change well and you understand what's going on with your people, you can bring those swings way down and you can make those declines a lot shallower and shorter. And so you're going to have people, stabilizers are going to hit their wall in about a week or two. Let's see, if Rapid City, if you're just getting home now, you're going to hit your wall in about 3 weeks, right toward the end of April. If you've already been home, you're going to hit your wall pretty soon because emotionally you're going to start saying, this is the new normal. I don't like it. And this is going to be a problem. And so the chaos people, the fixers, again, you can really help that by being clever about how you work it. So I'm going to go through really quickly. I'm almost at the end of the slides. What is crazy making for each of these types? And what is a little simple strategy that you can apply. So crazy making for people, isolation and routine, both things that you cannot have too much interaction. We don't like routine a whole lot, and isolation is a mess for us. I used to joke before I did this for a living that I didn't like myself enough to spend time by myself that much, and which is not true, but that's what it felt like at the time. I didn't understand. We also had a fixer who went home. Sheila is in Toronto, one of our clients in Toronto, and she was like just completely a wreck for the first 2 days. And then she kind of put sticky notes around her laptop of all her people's names and all of the clients she worked with. And then she could kind of track how often she checked in with everybody. And that alone made her feel good. Now she thought she was being a control freak. And she kind of felt bad about that because she's not really, didn't think that's the kind of person she was, but that's not really what it is for her. It's about feeling connected to people. That's critically important for fixers. Independents, they hate restrictions of any kind. So frankly, if you have an independent on your team and you can send them away to do their own sort of a self-directed project right now, maybe it's, hey, you've wanted to work on this one thing for a long time, you haven't had any time, go do it for now and check in with me. That's a great thing. They hate restrictions. Stabilizers, they don't like uncertainty in all the ways. The human stuff, isolation, they hate, and all of this chaos, not knowing how long we're going to be out and all that mess. And organizers, the crazy making thing for them is the lack of logic. Frankly, like a lot of this stay at home when we don't have a lot of reported cases here feels like a lack of logic. And that's hard for a lot of organizers. And then a lot of times what happens in meetings now, I'm sure you've noticed, is that there's a lot of oversharing, and not necessarily, it's their perceived oversharing. So it's more about, how are you? What's going on with your kids? What are you feeling? That stuff they don't care about, honestly, not their magic. So the strategies about how to address some of these issues is the fixers need a lot of video check-ins. Video should be your new normal. They need to see people, they need to connect. Like me not being able to see you right now is driving me crazy. I'll be fine. But you need a lot of video check-ins. And if you're leading a team, be checking in with everybody for their sake and also for yours. Because if you're a fixer leader, you need to feel like you're doing a good job. You're helping your people. Independents, keep them on track. Like I said, with an independent project or have them checking in with you, have a very specific jobs for them to do or tasks so they can actually stay focused for the times that they're home. Stabilizers, give them a plan in a virtual team. So if you as a leader can't be touching them a lot because you've got other fish to fry, connect them with people in their team or other people related to their role that they can constantly be checked in with. I know a couple colleagues of a client of mine, and they literally almost are on Zoom all the time and they're not even talking that much, but they feel better having people around. Organizers, they're fine on Slack. If you have Slack or instant messenger of some kind, they're really okay with that's their work. They might have a little struggle at home if it's too chaotic, but they usually find a way to kind of manage. So as long as you tell them, next Friday, we're going to make a call about if we're still staying home or we're going back to work. Like, just give them as much stability as far as the plan as you can, and they'll be just fine. So at the end, I'll just leave you with, the heart is saying, I'm going to bed, wake me up when this is all over. And really, the heart needs you, or the brain is saying, the world needs you, heart. And really what that is for me is, you have to really, I'm sure you are good leaders already. That is not a question. But what you have to do now is tune up your awareness of what your people need just enough, and just tweak a little different things for people as to what they need. Because a lot of leaders right now are saying, everyone's home life is different, they'll figure it out, it'll be fine. That's really not enough. You really have to give people vastly more structure. What do you need from them? You have people going, and you know this, but I'm just going to say it to reemphasize. You have people going from constant interaction for 8 hours a day to almost nothing. Even if you have an hour stand up in the morning, right? That is not enough for people, especially team driven people. That is not enough. And so you have, and what you might be realizing is how much time your people spend actually interacting with each other, and not working, or working through interaction. So you have got to let your people talk a lot more than they probably are. And if you're just starting this journey, begin by saying, every day we're all having a video meeting at 9 o'clock or whatever the time is right for your people. Every day, I want everybody, I want all my managers to touch every one of their people. And the great thing is, if you have them do the little free assessment, then you can know, like, you know what, Bobby doesn't need me to talk to him today, so we're just going to check in every Friday and see how he's doing. Or, hey, I know Susie is a stabilizer. She is going to need somebody to be with all the time and to check in on her constantly. So you can be really strategic about how you are engaging your people in a way that's going to actually support the work getting done and the continuity of your business, because that's really what we're looking at right now, is giving you the tools to have better business continuity, to support your people and actually get the things done that you need to. I think that's my last slide. It is. All right, so I'm going to stop the screen share and check out if there's any chat. I don't have any chat notifications. So I invite you, if you have any questions, to let me know. I'm also not looking at the Zoom, so I don't know, Rachel, if you're seeing anything anywhere else. Rachel's on Zoom, or was.
Rachel, I don't see any chats or anything in the Q&A right now.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. All right, so do you have anything else that you want to share with everybody, Rachel, or should we just call it a Wednesday afternoon? I almost forgot what day it was.
We can wrap it up. I'll just reiterate that you can catch any replays on the Elevate Rapid City YouTube channel. In addition, if you check out the business resources page on Elevate Rapid City, we are posting all upcoming virtual trainings, and we have a bunch of other really good resources on there. So with that, I will let you close it out. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Rachel. I appreciate you having me. Thanks for being here, everybody. I know that there's just like a ton of things going on right now, and that doesn't necessarily mean overly productive things. It might just mean your brain is overflowing with how to manage all of this. So best of luck. I am, as you know now, a team-driven person, and I am never having enough interaction. I am in the office by myself most of the time now. So if you want to reach out, I am on LinkedIn. I have a lot of content there. Our website has a ton of stuff. Please feel free to reach out to us anytime, me personally, and I'd love to visit more. So thanks a million, and stay healthy, and all the best to you and yours.